1 did not waste a single second. The moment the screen lit up, it was clear that Season 2 is going to be on a completely different level. Everything we feared at the end of Season 1 is now sitting right in front of us, and there is no turning back. Belle and Calvin are still in the middle of danger. Tom Weaver is still walking around with a clean face like he did nothing wrong, and Casey is completely unaware of just how deep this goes. If you thought Season 1 was intense, Episode 1 of Season 2 just raised the bar so high that it is almost unbelievable. So let's get into everything that happened, because this episode was absolutely packed and we need to talk about all of it. We pick up exactly where Season 1 left off, and honestly, that alone already sets the tone for what kind of season this is gonna be. There is no soft opening, no slow build, no easing us back into Montana. We are thrown straight into the chaos, and the weight of everything that happened at the end of Season 1 is felt in every single scene. The first thing we see is the aftermath of the attack on Belle and Calvin, and it is not pretty. These two were left in an incredibly dangerous situation, and Episode 1 makes sure we feel every bit of that danger. Calvin is alive, just like Logan Marshall Green hinted before the season started, but being alive and being okay are two very different things. He is hurt, he is shaken, and for the first time, we see Calvin in a position where he cannot just push through on strength alone. This is a man who has always carried himself with a certain kind of toughness, a man who walked back into the Marshals when Calvin called him and never once showed weakness. But right now, in the opening moments of this episode, that toughness is being tested in a way we have never seen before. And then there is Belle. Ariel Kebbel promised us before the season started that we would pick up immediately and that people might be surprised to see just how bad it gets. She was not exaggerating. Belle is right there in the middle of it all, dealing with the physical reality of what just happened while also carrying the emotional weight of everything surrounding it. Her husband has already shown that he does not truly value her. Calvin is hurt and struggling, and now the people who were supposed to be safe in Montana are realizing that nowhere is actually safe anymore. The attack did not just happen, it sent a message, and that message is that Tom Weaver is willing to go as far as he needs to go to get what he wants. What makes this opening so powerful is that we already know who is behind all of this. We heard it ourselves at the end of Season 1. The ranch foreman looked Tom right in the eye and said, "It's handled, sir." Those words are still ringing in our heads as we watch Belle and Calvin fighting through this, and it makes everything twice as painful because Casey still does not know. He is still operating with incomplete information. He still sees Tom as someone on his side, and that gap between what we know and what Casey knows is creating this unbearable tension that runs through the entire episode. Every time Casey and Tom share a scene, every time Tom speaks to Casey with that calm and measured voice, it feels like watching someone standing right next to a fire without realizing how close they are to getting burned. Casey himself is carrying his own weight in this episode. The decision he made at the end of Season 1 to keep East Camp and turn it into a therapy center for veterans instead of selling was a deeply personal one. East Camp is where he lost Monica and Garrett. It is where some of his most painful memories live. And instead of running from that place, he chose to transform it into something meaningful that says everything about who Casey is as a person. But Season 2 is already showing us that making the right personal decision does not protect you from the people around you who are making the wrong ones. East Camp was attacked once already. And now, with Tom still operating freely and his ranch foreman doing his dirty work without anyone connecting it back to him, the threat has not gone away. It has only gotten quieter, which is somehow even more terrifying. Tate's presence in this episode is one of the most emotionally heavy parts of everything going on. This kid has gone through more trauma in the Yellowstone universe than most adult characters, and yet here he is again being pulled into danger that he should never have had to face. After what happened in the season 1 finale, after stepping up and killing the attacker to protect Thomas, Tate is carrying something that no child should have to carry. And Episode 1 does not let us forget that. We see it in the way he moves, in the
way he watches the adults around him, in the way he seems older somehow than he was even a few weeks ago in story time. John has always been like his father in so many ways, stepping up when things get hard, refusing to look away when danger arrives. But there is a difference between being brave and being forced to grow up faster than anyone should. And right now Tate is caught right in the middle of that. The Texas thread that was introduced at the end of season 1 is also starting to take shape in this episode. Tom brought Tate to Texas, and on the surface it looks completely innocent. A concerned family friend taking a young boy somewhere safe while Montana is unstable. But we know better. And the connection to Dutton Ranch is something that is impossible to ignore. The moment Texas entered the picture, most of us immediately thought of Beth and Rip. Tate knows them. He has history with them. And if Tate tells them even half of what has been happening in Montana, Beth is not the kind of person who is going to sit quietly. She is going to want answers. She is going to start pulling threads. And Tom, who knows the Dutton family well and has his own reasons for wanting to weaken Casey's position, may have just made a very serious miscalculation by bringing Tate anywhere near that world. Meanwhile, back in Montana, the atmosphere has completely shifted from what it was even at the best moments of season 1. There was always tension in Yellowstone's world, but there was also beauty in it: the land, the horses, the sense that Montana itself was something worth protecting. Episode 1 keeps that beauty but puts something darker underneath it now. Every wide shot of the land feels like it is hiding something. Every quiet moment feels like it is 1 second away from being interrupted. Tom Weaver has poisoned the environment without anyone realizing it yet, and that poison is spreading through every relationship, every conversation, every plan being made in season 2. Andrea's storyline is one of the most interesting things developing in this episode. She was supposed to go to DC. She said her goodbyes. She even looked back at Casey one last time in that way that told us everything we needed to know about how she truly feels. But Belle and Calvin being attacked changed everything. Andrea is not someone who walks away when the people around her are in danger. She is sharp, she is resourceful, and she already started digging into the background of the attacks before she was even supposed to stay. Now with this new development, there is almost no chance she gets on that flight. Montana needs her, and deep down she probably knows it. And so does Casey, even if he has not fully admitted it to himself yet. The relationship between Andrea and Casey is one of the most carefully written dynamics in this entire show. It is not a loud relationship. It does not announce itself. It is built on small moments, on trust that developed slowly through shared danger and shared purpose. And episode 1 is quietly planting more of those small moments between them. Every interaction they have carries this weight of unspoken things. Casey lost someone. He is not someone who rushes into anything emotional. But Andrea is clearly not someone he can ignore either. She gets under his skin in the way that only people who truly see you can. And as the season builds and the mystery around Tom deepens, having Andrea by his side is going to become less of a choice and more of a necessity. On the other side of things, Calvin and Belle's relationship is entering a completely new chapter. Belle's husband has already shown us who he is. He does not value her the way she deserves. And after everything that happened, after Calvin showed up for her in ways that her husband simply did not, it is becoming very hard for Belle to pretend that things at home are fine. Episode 1 shows us the beginning of that shift, that slow realization that the life she has been living is not the life she actually wants. Calvin is not in a position right now to be anyone's hero. He is dealing with his own pain, his own health, his own fear about what is coming next. But there is something between him and Belle that does not need either of them to be at their best. It just needs them to be honest. And episode 1 is moving them toward that honesty in a way that feels completely real and completely earned. But the shadow hanging over Calvin and Belle's story is something that we cannot ignore. Calvin's cancer. It was already a part of his story in season 1, and the hints we got suggested it was not going away. In episode 1, that reality is starting to press a little harder. He is hurt from the attack, and physically he is not where he was. And when you layer his health on top of that, it creates this quiet heartbreak underneath all the action. Calvin is someone who fights, always has been. But there are some fights where fighting harder is not the answer, and the show seems to be slowly walking us toward that realization with him. The scenes between Calvin and Maddie are carrying enormous emotional weight this season, and episode 1 already gives us a taste of just how difficult those moments are going to get. Thomas is another character whose path in season 2 feels genuinely dangerous. He has done something remarkable by pushing back against the mine and getting that 60-day pause on operations. But that win came with a cost. He has enemies now, real ones, people with money and power and no concern at all for the law of the land. The attack on him during season 1 was not a random act. It was a warning. And Thomas is smart enough to know that warnings do not stop when you ignore them. They escalate. Episode 1 is already showing us that the people who want that mine running are not going to accept a 60-day pause as a final answer. And Thomas, as strong and as principled as he is walking a very thin line between justice and becoming the next target in a long list of people Tom Weaver wants out of the way. What ties all of this together in episode 1 is the feeling that everything is connected and everyone is more vulnerable than they realize. Tom Weaver has been operating in the shadows the whole time, using other people to do his work, keeping his hands clean while the people around Casey suffer. And now with the possibility that Tom and Beulah might find each other in Texas, that web is about to get even bigger and even more dangerous. Casey is going to need every person he trusts to figure this out. He is going to need Andrea's instincts, Belle and Calvin's experience, Tate's courage, and maybe eventually the one thing that could truly change the game, which is Rip and Beth finding out what is happening in Montana. Season 2 episode 1 has set up something massive, and we are only just getting started.